What's going on? Super, super excited you're here and just honored and pumped to be kicking off this journey. Episode 1 of our podcast, as well as our new YouTube experience. I'm just so excited to be here. And I can't wait to share with you a little bit more about what this whole thing is about, what you can expect from listening, how this is going to help and benefit you and your online business. But so much good stuff to come. I can't wait to share that. But first, I just want to say welcome. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad that we get to share this journey together and walk this journey through this new podcast and this new YouTube thing that we're doing, because there's just so much good to come. And if you're an online business owner who is serious about growing your online business, about increasing your income, about building a business that is aligned and authentic for you, and you want to uncover the strategies and the tactics and the roadmap and the tools and what's really working today to actually make that happen, this podcast and this YouTube channel, depending on where you're watching this, is just going to be so tremendously valuable to you. And so I'm excited to get to share with you a little bit more about the intention behind what we're doing here today in episode 1. As well as I want to walk you through the 3-step process that I use whenever I create something new in my business. Because the truth is, I was thinking about this morning as we were putting together the details for this podcast. And, I've launched so many different things over the journey of 18 plus years in building online businesses. And I've made a lot of mistakes when it comes to actually doing that. And this 3-step process that I'm going to share with you, this is exactly what we use to launch this podcast, but it's also on a deeper level, something that you can take and integrate into your business and make the process of launching your next thing, whether it's an offer, a program, or a podcast like this, or a YouTube channel, or a social media platform, so much more successful. And it will help you avoid some of the biggest blocks and just mistakes that I think a lot of online entrepreneurs make that really slow them down, that lead to things like failed launches, and nobody likes putting out an offer that flops, like all this stuff that is very normal if you've ever experienced it. But so much of this that I'm about to share with you, I could have avoided some major mistakes by doing that. So I'm going to share with you that 3-step process today for creating something new in your business, as well as walking you through the intention behind this new podcast, what we're doing here, what you can expect. That is our roadmap for today. And again, just so excited that you're here, that you're along for the ride in this journey. The reason I wanted to do this was, the truth is, I've been doing online business a long time. We've been building businesses for 18 years. My first official business, I think I was like 13 years old. I built this software program online so that I made it, so that basically I didn't have to put the CD in my computer when I would want to play my favorite video games. If you're like a nerd like me, I used to play a lot of video games as a kid, and it used to drive me crazy that you have to like hunt for the CD to put in the computer in order to play the game. And so I built this software program when I was like 13 years old. I learned mostly how to code, by the way, when I was like sitting on the toilet reading computer programming books, because that was me. that was the weird personality that I am. But looking back, I spent my summer like building this computer program so that you didn't have to put in CDs when you played your favorite computer games. And I'll never forget, putting it out online and releasing this thing that I had poured so much of my heart and soul into, and then waking up one day and having an email in my inbox that I had made my first official sale. And I remember that feeling of like, wow, this is a stranger. This is someone I don't know, someone from the other side of the world, the planet, someone, who I've never met personally, who through the power of my words, through the power of this thing that I created, we were able to create this relationship together where I could add value to their life and they could add value to mine. What a beautiful gift. What an amazing thing. And ever since that moment, I've been hooked and fascinated by this idea of how to connect people online, about what really makes people buy, about how to build platforms that allow us to share our voice, our message, to make an impact on the lives of thousands of others. It's been something that I've just been so passionate about. When I was in high school, I was a singer-songwriter. I built this big presence on MySpace at the time. You remember MySpace? And I remember, how cool it was to get like fan mail from people all over the world. And later on, building, a business that served other musicians, my first official 6-figure coaching business. And then spent some time as a director of sales with one of my best friends, scaling up a multi-7-figure coaching business, and then became a business coach. But the common thread through all of these things has been this passion for online marketing, for connecting people, for getting to bridge human connection through this computer, through this, amazing technology that we have. And I've made so many mistakes, and I've really screwed up a lot along the way. I've launched so many different things that have flopped. I've made so many mistakes. I've also experienced a lot of success, selling well over $1 million of stuff online, signing thousands of clients. And I've learned so much about what works and what doesn't. And my mission, and the reason why I'm excited about this podcast and what we're doing here, is because I want to share with you some of those lessons. I want to share with you the biggest things that I've learned. I want to bring together the best insights and strategies and tools, things that you can take into your business. And regardless of what kind of work you're doing, whether it's coaching or consulting or courses or whatever you're selling, to be able to help you do that more effectively. Because I know if you're watching this, you got an impact to make. You got work that needs to be seen. It's something you want to share with the world. Chances are the reason you started your business wasn't just to make money. It's also because you got something important that you want to make sure that you get in the hands of other people, something that can help people in some meaningful way. You want to transform lives. You want to make the world better through the work that you do. And you want to build a business that allows you to do that and also allows you to get paid and make really great money. And to be able to wake up every day and have freedom and flexibility, and to be able to work with exactly the kinds of clients you want to work with, and to have leads and clients coming in the door. And over time, I've learned that making that happen is not rocket science. It can feel overwhelming and feel complicated. There's so much noise out there, but the truth is the principles. We actually look at what's underneath marketing success, building an online business. This stuff is not rocket science. And once you understand these things, it makes the journey so much easier. And so my hope is, by starting this and by sharing this with you, I want to give you some of those tools. I want to help you demystify this whole process so that you can take what you're doing in your online business and grow and get to the next level and increase your income and be able to sign more clients and sell more stuff. And more importantly, make a bigger impact and also help more people and also have more freedom, so you're not stressed and burned out and you're not working way too hard in your business. When I look back over the journey of what I was doing, when I first started, even, several years ago compared to where I am today, there's so many things that I was doing that I just didn't need to do. And we see this so often from so many of the online business owners I mentor in our various, mentorship programs. So much of the stuff that they're doing just isn't necessary. And so I see people working way too hard. They're burning the candle at both ends. They're busting their butt trying to grow their business when it doesn't have to be this way. It's not to say that it's going to be easy all the time, or there aren't going to be challenges. But the journey of growing your business, I think, can be fun. It can be easier. And my mission is to be able to help that happen for you. So that is why we're here. I just am honored and privileged to get to share this with you. And I'm honored and privileged to have your attention. I don't take it lightly. I think attention is like the most important thing in the world. So the fact that you're here listening to this means a lot to me. And I'm committed to making sure that we can share and give the best possible material to help you when it comes to growing your online business. So that is why we're here. In terms of what you can expect, it's probably going to be a variation of different things, and I'm going to explore and kind of test different things as we go here. But my guess is we'll start with like an episode a week. And I want to share a combination of marketing strategies and tips, as well as like mindset, more internal side of things, because what I've learned from mentoring literally hundreds, helping thousands of online business owners at this point, is that the stuff that really trips people up 99% of the time is actually the internal game. I was like, people think they need the strategy, and that stuff's important, but if you don't have the internal piece right, none of it matters. So I want to share with you some of those things. So combination of marketing strategy, mindset tips. We've got so many ideas for things that I want to offer here. And, of course, we're going to play and experiment, and I'm sure this will evolve over time. But I'm excited that you get to be here and that we get to walk this journey together. So with that being said, I wanted to start here by talking about my strategy and my approach for creating new things. And this podcast or this YouTube is an example of this, right? So a couple days ago, I didn't really know this was actually going to exist in this form. I was getting some kind of like nudge that was like, okay, this is what needs to happen. Like we need to launch a YouTube podcast kind of combination thing. But it wasn't until really today, actually, that this really like became clear in a way that actually allowed me to take action on it. And as I reflected on how this whole thing came to be, I realized there were really like these 3 steps that I followed. And these 3 steps that I think make the process of creating new things in your business so much easier and help you avoid some really major mistakes that a lot of people make. So I want to share with you what these 3 steps are. And regardless of what you're launching in your business, whether it's an offer or podcast or whatever it is, these 3 steps I think are a framework that you can apply and that are going to make whatever it is that you do so much more effective and so much more successful. So step number 1, this is probably the most important piece, which is what I would call starting with surrender. I'm a very much an intuitive, spiritual guy. And for years, when I look back over the journey of growing my online business, and I've, been in different niches and had different businesses along the way. But when I look back at how I navigated that journey, what I see is for the majority of my journey as an online entrepreneur, I pretty much led primarily from my head. And I was very much the guy that would sit down and I would strategize things out, and I would say, okay, what makes sense for the business here, and what is going to help us achieve, whatever revenue goal I'm going for. And I would use that to kind of reverse engineer a strategy or reverse engineer an offer. And it was very intellectual. That was very much how I led the majority of my business. And I was able to create a certain level of success from that place. But what I found over time was that oftentimes what I was able to do was I would create a business that looked really good on paper. But I felt like I was like a prisoner to the business. And you could look at the business on paper and be like, oh my God, this business is perfect. It checks all the boxes. But after a couple of years of running a business like that, I felt like I wanted to throw in the towel and just burn it to the ground because it wasn't feeding me on a human level, on a soul level. And so over time, what I started realizing was this way of operating within my business, which was largely intellectual. Like everything was planned and strategized and everything kind of came from my mind, wasn't actually giving me what I really wanted, which was that deep sense of fulfillment, that sense of purpose or meaning, that thing that when you wake up in the morning, you're just like, I love what I do. And so over time, I started to ask myself, like, is there another way of doing this? Is there another way of creating that is not so heady, is not so intellectual? It's more about listening, about being open for guidance from a deeper place within myself. As I started kind of exploring my own spirituality and getting into, spiritual practices in my probably mid-20s, this was when this idea of like, oh, maybe there's another way of creating started to come to me. This realization of like, okay, maybe there's another form of intelligence that's actually available to me. So to me, what that means is it's much more about listening, and it's much more about letting my intuition be the thing that's in the driver's seat instead of my intellect. So as an example, a couple of weeks ago, I was sitting out on my deck because I love sitting out, in the mornings here in Boulder, Colorado. It's beautiful. It's like fall here. And I'm sitting down there and I'm journaling. And, the last few years, we've built this business primarily serving coaches. And I was writing and I was journaling and I just got this like intuitive like hit is the best way I can describe it. It was just like, you're not just meant to serve coaches. You're meant to build a much broader platform. and to speak to all online business owners. And part of your mission here is you're supposed to help elevate the consciousness of the business world. You're supposed to share these more kind of intuitive ways of operating so that you can help online entrepreneurs evolve and to tap into like deeper levels of intuitive guidance in their business and to start to build businesses in a way that is more conscious, is more loving, is more in alignment with the deepest truth of what we all really are. And I heard that and I was like, I felt like really alive. Like I was just like, wow, this feels like really powerful to me. And then instantly my mind came in. It was like, hold on a second. You got to change the whole funnel. You got to change, like we've literally built an entire audience the last 3 years. We're spending like $20,000 a month on ads, like serving coaches. You mean to tell me like we got to expand the entire niche? We got to change like our entire marketing funnel and probably our offers too. And so my mind immediately was like, well, maybe we can wait on this. We can hold off on this. We can wait another year or two. Maybe when you've really established your presence in this space a little bit more, you can expand. And so instantly it was like my mind was like talking me out of it. But I knew in my heart this was what I needed to do. And I was having a conversation with my partner, Kimberly. Thank God for Kimberly. And immediately I told her, I said, hey, I had this nudge this morning. Like, this is what I'm supposed to do. And she was like, you need to listen to that. You need to do it right now. And I was like, you're right. Damn it. And so in a couple of days, I was like, okay, we're going to change the whole business. Now, that might sound crazy to you. Or maybe you're like, that actually makes a lot of sense, depending on where you are and who you are. But the truth is, this is an example of really like, it's listening. And as I started getting this kind of nudge of like, okay, you're supposed to have this larger platform. You're supposed to serve, online business owners and not just talk to coaches anymore. And like, okay, fine. I'm open and available to be led. I'm open and available for that guidance. And so more and more in my life, in my business, is less like, what do I want and how do I like strategize this perfect thing out? And more like, sorry, my dog's barking in the background. We got someone here fixing our sink. There we go. We're going to keep it though. By the way, side note on marketing, everybody wants to like cut that stuff out of their like podcasts. And like when life comes in, like there's this idea of like, oh, we need to like whitewash this. But this is the stuff that actually makes you magnetic and attractive. This is the stuff that when people hear it, they want to work with you. So rather than like trying to whitewash out like all of the aspects of your life, like when your kids come in the door while you're recording, or like you've got, the dog barking in the background. No, this is you being a human being. We'll talk a little bit more about this in future episodes, but really like so much of what makes people feel connected to you and what builds your presence as a personal brand is not being this like generic, like whitewashed presence online. So bringing more of who you are to your business and not cutting out all those things is actually really important. That's a sidebar. Getting back to what I was talking about surrender. So the idea here, and hopefully you're kind of starting to catch this, is I let my intuition, that inner guidance, be the thing that's like the lighthouse in my life and my business. And I listen, and I make an effort to listen. And sometimes this is just as simple as asking. And look, you don't have to believe in God to do this. To me, it's like the way I contextualize it and conceptualize it is I'm in relationship with God. And so I ask, it's like, what should I do today? What is this? This business is not mine, it's yours. What do you want to do through me? Like what's trying to emerge? These are all examples of questions that are not about what do I want, but about this more openness and this availability for something larger than ourselves to come through. And when you start tapping into that, that's really when the magic happens. And on a deeper level, it's also what creates real meaning and fulfillment. It's what creates a business that isn't just profitable, but a business that when you wake up in the morning every day and you get out of bed, you're like, I want to run this business. Like this business feels aligned for me on a deep soul level. That form of listening is what creates this. I've never been more fulfilled in my life in the work that I do. And it's because I'm much more out of my head than I ever have been. It's not that I don't use my intellect. I still use it. But the way I describe it is like, I tap into like the universe to kind of give me like the guidance. And then it's like the intellect comes on board to kind of bring that into form. And so there's a process of like, okay, taking that and then being like, okay, well, how do I, structure this? And then I can bring more of my intellect into it. But really what it starts with is that surrender. Every new project, everything that I launch, it's like, what wants to come through me? Like, what is supposed to happen? What am I supposed to do today, God? Rather than let me try to think my way through to the perfect thing. This way of operating is very different from, I think, the way most people are taught how to grow their businesses, which is very much like, okay, let's be super heavy on the strategy. And there's nothing wrong with strategy. It's an important part of growing a business as well. We need the marriage between those things. The head and the heart is another way of saying it. You can't have one, you got to have both. But in my opinion, the intuition should be in the driver's seat and the intellect should be in the passenger seat. Most people got it flipped and they wonder why they're so unhappy in their businesses and in their lives because they're not listening. So start with surrender. Surrender, which is rather than thinking your way to what something is supposed to be, being able to ask, like, what am I supposed to launch this month, God or the universe, whatever word works for you. What wants to come through me this month? Okay, you want to do a podcast? What is the podcast supposed to be about? That's what I was journaling on this morning. So starting with surrender. Now from there, I think this is when you can start to bring more of your intellect into the process. Once you've got that you've caught the vision for what the thing is, and that comes from outside of you, then we can start to ground this more into like the intellect. And we can say, okay, well, what's the goal here, like from an intellectual standpoint? And this for me is step 2. So I asked myself this question, okay, well, what's the goal here? What are we trying to do with this podcast? Now I know that I'm supposed to do a podcast and I kind of have like this broad vision. Okay, now I can bring my intellect into it more. What's the goal? And I realized in journaling on this morning, the goal of this podcast was really 2 goals. Number 1 is to grow our audience, to connect us with new people who are going to be a good fit, hopefully down the line, to work with us inside our various programs. And number 2 is I wanted this podcast to be a way that our existing audience could connect with me on a deeper level, feel more connected with me. So I'm like, okay, those are our 2 goals. Well, so that really sets the course in terms of like what kind of content I need to do. Because I was like, okay, well, if we need to, connect with new people, we probably want to do more SEO focused content. And there needs to be a balance between like keyword focused, more SEO type stuff that's going to get search traffic, plus, more nurture type content that's more about, depth of connection, more personal branding type stuff that's going to resonate more with people who are already in my audience. We need to balance those 2 things. And well, okay, if we're going to do lead gen, I know that I also need a way to collect email addresses. And so we can have some kind of like a pitch inside the podcast for some kind of training or something that we can offer people to help build our list and to make sure that we, can grow our audience through this traffic that's going to be coming in, right? Hey friend, hope you're enjoying this episode of the podcast. And before we get back to it, if you're an established online business owner who's serious about unlocking your next level of income and impact and growth in your business, I want you to watch my free $1 Million online business training, where I walk through a 4-step roadmap I've personally used to sell well over $1 million of coaching, consulting, and courses online. It's going to make the journey of growing your business so much easier. I want to give this to you for free. All you got to do to access it is go to jasonmoss.com/growth. That's jasonmoss.com/GROWTH to get free access to this training right now. Now back to the episode. Being able to define the goal is really the first step to getting clear on like what your process is and what you need to include in a thing in order for it to be effective. And I think a lot of the reason that a lot of people get tripped up when it comes to launching new things is because they lose sight of like what they're actually aiming for. And it's so easy for things. You look at a launch, for example, and it can become so complex and so complicated. You ask yourself, like, what's the goal? And it's like, well, I just want to have a good time. Maybe that's the goal. I was like, okay, well, maybe I don't need to do like 6 lives, and maybe I don't need to do like, 20,000 emails and all these crazy things and do this big sales page. If I just want to have a good time, like, well, why don't I just wake up in the morning and, send the emails that feel inspired and aligned for me to send? And, maybe I don't do any lives because, this season, they're not fun for me to do. I don't feel like I'm having a good time when I'm on live. That's fine. So to me, like having okay, first it's like having that vision and that intention of like, okay, what am I here to create that comes from something bigger than me? And then being able to say, okay, well, what's the goal? How do I bring more of like my intellect into this to start to shape this a little bit? And then from there, I can start to reverse engineer and I can say, okay, well, now what I know that I'm aiming for, I can say, okay, what needs to be a part of this? And so that started to help me get clear on what I needed to add in this podcast. I knew we needed to have a little bumper in the middle where we could, invite people to a training or something that could collect email addresses, as an example. And it also got me clear on the content strategy and what we needed to include. So number 2, really like defining the goal. And then number 3, this is one of my favorite questions. I ask this all the time. How can I make this easy? This question is really like the guiding force question in my business. And I think it's what has allowed me to build and grow a business that is incredibly profitable. I mean, we do, $500,000 plus a year in revenue, but a business that on a deeper level is also very much aligned with me as a human being and doesn't involve me working like 60-hour weeks and burning myself out. What I've found when I look back over my journey in entrepreneurship and I think about all the things I used to do that I thought I needed to do, like the months that I would spend like building an offer before I launched it, because like I didn't realize that that's not actually like the best way to build an offer, and that I didn't even need to build anything before I launched something. Or the fact that I thought that I needed these like crazy sales pages that I need to spend all this time building, or these like VSLs or all these crazy things, versus like, well, maybe I can just put together like a Google Doc in like 15 minutes. Or everything needed to be this like crazy thing with all these components added, because I wasn't asking myself this question. And over time, what I've learned is that the journey of building and growing an online business can actually be so incredibly easy. But the thing is, we make it complicated. Our mind wants to make it complicated. If you think like, okay, I got to launch a new thing, you ask your mind how to do the launch, the first answer it's probably going to give you is like, there's like 25 things on the list. It's like, well, we need a VSL, and we need a big sales page, and we need like, 20 emails, and we need to do 3 lives and a masterclass, and we need to make sure that we have all sorts of automation on the back end. And we just ask a question like, well, how can I make this easy? Suddenly it's like, well, and you start crossing things off the list, and you realize you probably only need 1 or 2 of these. And you turn what might have been like a 3-week project into like a 3-hour project. So as an example, with this podcast, we used to do YouTube videos that required like a lot of editing. I had a video editor on board, and it was like very like highly produced and like big production value. And so, we had to review the video edits, and we had to give feedback, and it was this like crazy long thing. And we had a thumbnail designer and all this crazy stuff. And we had, my admin assistant, like we had like 3 or 4 team members working on these videos. And I started asking myself the question with this podcast, well, how can we make this easy? I was like, well, what if we just did it in 1 take? What if it wasn't cut together at all? What if we didn't have any production value? What if it was just like me basically just talking in a camera, and we just had like 1 big long take, and that way we don't even need a video editor, and we can post the same thing to YouTube and the podcast, and it would take me, I probably don't even need to send it off to someone. I can just cut it together like in 5-10 minutes and just export it out. We do a quick little thumbnail. Done. Easy. So much of the journey of growing your online business can feel like it has to be complicated. But with a question like this, you can cut through all the noise, and you can get down to what are the key things that really move the needle. What I find is this makes the journey of growing your business, launching new things, so much less stressful and so much more fun. So all this being said, zooming out here, we've got these 3 simple steps when it comes to launching new offers or launching something new. The first, again, is starting with surrender. So rather than using your mind to create that initial vision, starting with that openness and that availability of asking for what wants to happen through you, rather than trying to think your way through everything that you need to do in your business. Now, from there, once you have that initial vision, I think that's where the mind can come in and shape that a little bit more by really defining the goal. Step 2, what is that goal? Like, what are we trying to achieve here through this thing that you're launching? What does success look like? And from there, once we have clarity on that, then you can reverse engineer what actually needs to be inside whatever it is that you're putting together in order for it to be successful. And then finally, number 3, that guiding question, how can I make this easy? So powerful. Such a powerful question. You just ask that question, you can cut through so much of the noise and the layers of complexity that your mind is going to want to create around a thing that just makes whatever it is that you're going to do so much harder than it actually has to be. And this question will help simplify things and cut through so much of that noise. So you can move forward so much more quickly and easily, and often you can be a lot more effective as a result. So I hope this was helpful. I hope you found value in this 3-step model for launching new things. And again, I just want to let you know how excited and grateful I am that you're here, that you're listening. We've got so much good to come through this podcast, through this YouTube channel, depending on where you're watching it. I'm just super pumped to be walking this journey with you. And I hope you choose to tune in again. You can subscribe, you can like, you can, wherever you are, wherever you're listening to this, there's probably a couple different ways you can stay connected, and I hope you do. And I'd also encourage you to leave a review, because that really helps us out, especially as we're launching this. Getting, reviews from people who have been listening to it really does help us out. And super pumped to be sharing this all with you. So I will see you in the next episode, and I hope you have an awesome rest of your day.